professor at Penn State University's School of Business. As many of us have read, King research is extremely productive. He works on many research topics using a variety of research methods. So his research areas in social media, e-commerce, financial technologies. He has published in various top journals, and also he currently is a senior editor of Production Operations Management. Thank you so much, Kevin, for the introduction, and thank you so much for having me here. My name is Kim Tampo. I'm from University of Florida. Sorry for a little bit of delay this morning. So we all have safety in the information systems or the operations, but we don't know how to optimize this guy. Okay. So here we don't have the full screen. This is the best that we can get. Okay, hope you can tolerate this. So in today's talk, I'm going to discuss my recent projects on the platforms, AI tools, and users' content generations. And here the content generations that I'm focused on is the users' content generation but without using the AI. So it's kind of the spillover effect. So before the talk, I hope to give you a brief outline about my research, what I'm doing recently, so we can continue the talks offline or in the future. So for my research, I focus on two streams. The first one is about the social media platforms, like how people interact, how people contribute. With all those interactions, what are the materials, outcomes for employees? For example, if that social media is in the companies, what they behave on those communities or the social media are going to affect them or are going to affect the companies. Okay, or for the firms that they start to build up the social media accounts by themselves on the public platforms like Twitter, what's their business strategies? Okay. So the punchline of those line of the research is that social media is kind of important. It matters to the firms, no matter if they have their own within the company or they have their official accounts public. And so for this type of the research, I mainly use the econometrics, and sometimes I would like to convert the unstructured data like the text, image, videos into the variables that we can use. And then the second stream of the research, recently I worked a lot on, is about the platforms and the complementers. The complementers meaning the parties that are on the platforms. And normally there is a huge asymmetry in terms of the power and what the platform can do, what those parties can do. There are many cases concerning the antitrust discussions. Recently, we have the news regarding the Microsoft Cloud Computing Service and its licensing issues regarding the Office Suite. The cost of the Office Suite or the SQL Server, if you use it on the Microsoft's own cloud computing, is totally different if you want to use those services on the AWS. Okay? There are huge debate on that, and also the case concerning the HTC and the Google that also catch a lot of eyes. And on the e-commerce savings, like the Amazon, we all know Amazon can do a lot of stuff to introduce its own product and introduce its own brand, and at the same time they can do this self-preferencing activities, how those are going to affect different parties, and what policies that we can have to benefit the consumers, benefit the consumers. The debates are always at different directions. Okay, so on the sellers, on the consumers, everybody they have their own angles concerning this topic. So they are being analyzed this concerning the game series and analytical modeling. So I basically do those. So in today's talk, I'm going to focus on the first directions. So basically, on the first direction, recently we use a lot of AI tools on the social medias. And when I see this, I can think clearly how people will behave differently when they use the AI tools versus they are not using the AI tools. That part I can know there are huge differences. But what I cannot know, but I think there may be some effect, and this effect maybe is of a bigger scale, is that for the people who do not use the AI tools, right? And for those who just see people using AI tools, or they start to use the AI tool, but at the same time they are doing the regular steps, produce the content without using AI tool. What are those impacts? And I think that's a bigger scale, and it can have more implications for platforms and content generation. So I prepared the two studies. I may not have enough time for the second one, but the first one is the text-to-image AI on the social media platforms and the users' creativities. And then the second one is AI review summaries and consumer ratings. And the first work is only work with the Idioms from UAF and the Bong Susan from Florida State. The second one is doing work with Rishi Ku and Lian Qingdao. Those are from John Hopkins University. I hope to note that those works will be impossible without the fantastic students. The first one, Yipeng, she is a second-year PhD student at the UF. The second one, Lian Qingdao, is an undergraduate student. Okay. So the first talk, by the way, those studies, they are at the paper writing stage. So meaning that we now have a semi-finalized framework about how this story is going to be, but we are still like revising every perspective. So please, I fully appreciate all these suggestions. So the first one is the text-to-image AI on the social media and the people's creativity. So I will divide this study's talk on the 5 sections, and I will focus more on the context and the data, what we have, and what's the measurement, and what we think that's the best at the stage that we can do. And then, regarding the main results, I'm going to briefly introduce them and all the philosophies here, but I will focus more on the mechanism part, because I think there are many things are going on, and we want to discuss more on that. Okay. So the text-to-image AI, I believe many of you may have used that. So the text-to-image AI, this type of the tool is typically like this. Right? So you basically go to this interface and you text to the text what you want to create. And then you choose a style, what type of the style that you want to have. And then without the original pictures, okay, you will get a picture based on your descriptions. Okay, for example, in this case, out of nowhere, I just want to create an image with the panda riding a bicycle. I don't know why, but I just want to say it. I just I just type in a panda riding a bicycle with one style. So basically, that's the process. Okay, I got the image. So you don't have to take the pictures. You just use your imagination. And it becomes very popular. Okay, not only the text to image in general, I mean like using AI to create kind of services. And we can see many services they are providing this type of tool, and also at the same time, a brief idea in the past 2 years. In 2 years, we are creating almost the same amount of photos as what we did in the past 150 years. Okay, so basically, the social media is like fully embracing this type of new things. Okay, so the social media platforms that we use, they sort of introduce this type of service because why not? Right, saving time, saving cost, and produce more content. And for the is not only the Instagram, Facebook, even though the short video about the platform is quite popular as well, but using AI to produce the video is a higher level. So most people still use the AI to produce the image. And users start to use this kind of image and the service to produce the images instead of taking their own pictures. Their motivations behind it is very similar as what we use in AI, like for the general task, right? So it's saving time, saving cost. So, but one thing that I didn't expect is that based on the survey, people use this type of service also for the creativity, for the creative thinking. That also makes sense to me, right? So, for example, for that panda reading a bicycle, I don't think that's possible in reality because it's highly prohibited even in China. Okay, so I'm from Sichuan province, where is China's hometown, so I know this here. So it helps the creative process. You think about this, the social media platforms, they highly encourage the creativities. So for people going into the social media, I think for me at least, I want to see something that I do not really see, daily lives. Right? So the creativity matters. So not only this AI tools, social media also introduced many other tools to encourage this creativity. So that's why when those type of tools come into play, there are many discussions, like whether this is legal, whether this is copyright issues, whether we should enable this as AI. Many discussions going on among which there is one fundamental question being asked consistently. When we have this kind of tools, whether it's going to affect people's creativity or not. Okay? For all those reports and discussions that I read, at least there is no final conclusion because there are many things going on. So in today's research, what we are trying to explore,
Okay, I'm in a
we
meeting.
also ask this
I'm in a
question,
meeting.
but
I'm
to
in a
understand
meeting.
this question,
You know, but
there are two things to consider, or two perspectives to analyze this question. Firstly, if you think whether this using AI tools will increase people's activities, then what you can do is to compare the works people created with using AI versus the works without using AI. Right? So that's a very simple comparison. Right? We just have these two groups of the works. If one is of like many unique perspectives, then that one should be like more creative. And how do you define creativity? Which is not similar to the previous ones. So we may have a benchmark, right? So that's how use the previous. I mean, because you're looking for feedback. Here, I think the challenging part. Later on, we'll see how you actually define it. Yes. The creativity you're defining is more about novel. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, probably novelty. Oh, yeah. I think as creativity as have all say novelty, but that's not actually, but that's more precise. But depends on what you do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, please raise any questions regarding the wordings. I'm very careful about the wording, but still, sometimes it's very eccentric. Yeah. 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 Yo, yeah, 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 yeah. precise wording is from the given. So let's say no one. So basically, overall, it is based on the previous ones. But here is a gap that I cannot answer. So I'm going to wait until the method part. I'm going to show you that one shortcoming. So that I know your questions, but there are something that I cannot answer for sure. So you will see why we cannot do that. So that moment, that is, I mean, in something very precise, I guess, some of it might be changes within the genre. Yeah. So, but the true artist goes to the category of art. Yes. Yes. But I guess that. Yes. So that means also, that one is creative. I want to generate. I'm making sunglasses. Yes. And generate like 500 models on the basis of these sunglasses. That would be a cheap way of, yes, sunglasses, but it wouldn't use to create. Yes. So yeah, absolutely right. So basically, but if I invent a new style. Yes. 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 So basically, when we quantify this knowing or the creativity, there are many things going on how to do that. So one thing is that I can be different from myself, right? So then I'm being more and more creative than myself. Or I can be more creative versus the whole, on this social media. There's also something else I want to comment. Yeah, but I'm not the expert in creating. For me, creativity is something that's personal, something that yes. So when you look at the image and think, well, it's creative, it's more like a reflection of kind of using the image as the kind of token of how creative yes. The creative one. Yes. Yes. So there are more limitations on these perspectives. So when it comes to the analysis of the images, there are not so much we can do, but we are trying our best. Yeah. So in this study, what we hope to see is the regular image exchange, like people without using the AI. Okay, so after people starting to use the AI, whether their creativity is on the regular ones that they do not use AI, will change. We think this is also an interesting question to ask because still regular images matter. So, like, if I keep saying regular tags, photos, tags, and if I'm sitting there, they are cute. Okay, for sure. But I still want to see some new styles of add pictures and smiling and they are taking these selfies. I don't know how that's possible, but we may want to see those type of new regular pictures and there. So and then I also think this is a fundamental perspective as well. So when you use the AI versus the non-AI generated photo, you do not know whether that technology is from the AI itself or it's from people's interpretation of the prompts. But for the regular ones, like people take the photos that they edit on their phone and they post, we shouldn't know that some of their thinking is maybe changed. Okay? Also slightly opaque. Anti-knowledge effect. How? Oh yeah, it's labeled. No. So here is the thing. In the research context I'm beginning to see on that social media that we are working with, they know. So because that AI tool is in-house.
It's a little bit of a heavy. What could be the underlying
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to talk. So when we have this questions, firstly, whether it's a positive one or the negative one, we do not know actually. So first thing that we know that from this existing study to and they find that when people start to use the AI created one, they can extend people's imaginations. And that's the AI generated content is somehow more AI. So that part we know, but how this is going to be transferred to the people's like a regular image generation process, that part we do not know. One thing that we guess is that probably people start to look at the new sense and they think more broadly that creativity can be transferred somehow. And all there may be some negative spillover. If I'm being more creative on this and I enjoyed some novel thoughts there, and here at the regular thing, I do not want to spend more time creating novel content. Or the use of the AI may prohibit you to think more novelly. So that's all the thoughts flying around before actually touching the data. And since it's on the social media platform, we actually categorize these thoughts or the mechanisms into two categories, answering Ima's question. So one of the mechanisms may be about this social media platform related. So I have done many researches on the reputation systems of the social media. So one assumption is that when people generate the content, they think about their reputations on the social media. And somehow this reputation systems, they may encourage the AI generated content at the first because that's the new thing at the beginning. And then people may, facing the competition from the AI generated content, or they may think about the overall reputation that they can get from the online. Somehow, because of these mechanisms, they change their regular image. Okay, then if it's about those reasons, then we can do something about the platform's reputation systems. Now you have the new categories of the content keeping, and there are some spillover effect, and if you want to better manage that, you may take into consideration of that. And the second category of the mechanisms that we think about is probably nothing about the social media. It's just about how people use the AI, how people use the text to image. So with those thoughts like in mind, so we start to analyze. I shouldn't predict that, but I have to ask you, if it were you, what's your guess on the results?
So what you mean by transfer is users learn from learn from what AI generated and internalize that into their own intelligence.
And they also become more creative on the regular.
In your first mechanism will be if I generated a picture with AI and that picture received a lot of likes, then I will try to emulate what AI is doing.
Yes.
What percent is like driven by the quality of image that's sent out, right? Because even like that panda picture, I'm like, oh, it's like not that creative, right? You see stuff like that. So it's like, to what extent, I guess my question is like, this is because you're asking me a question about using text image for AI, but doesn't it seem very much dependent on what the platforms like standards are in terms of what you get back? Right? So if you use like Gemini or Socrates, you can generate images, they all look similar, right? There's also a very like stringent restrictions on they won't generate like realistic looking faces, right? So like it's you can imagine how that would how to make it more complicated. So if one platform gives you like really crazy, really interesting ideas, you support that and become more creative yourself, but for the most part it's not now happening, right?
Yeah, it's on the temperature that you said. But you set the temperature to be warm, and you get warm really easily to see. My car is very easy.
So my understanding is like right now the current practice that the platforms they have this function implemented, but you're right, the function is not so creative. So they have this function, they have varieties of these styles there. but it's not as free as you can go, right? So, like the first slides I shared, after you testing the prompts, you can input your own styles, but at the same time, you may want to choose one or two styles that you like. And those styles are choices are there.
Yeah, I really like you are trying to provide two limitations. Are you trying to use this more than carefully?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
That might be I think we get the question all the time, right?
Yeah.
The question basically is the results depend on the capability of your AI.
Yes.
The specific implementation of your AI.
Yes.
Which it's hard to do. Right? And that's the
Yes. But I like it. Yeah, I think the fun thing is the execute AI, this tool is always the same, the process. Okay, so a little bit, it's about the results. Here is our plan. So first thing is the native skill, and we find it's actually the second part of the nativeness when people start to use the AI, and that process somehow matter a lot, and that answer a lot of answer back a lot of our current discussions, and I'm going to show why this matters. Okay, so after we have this user decisions, I think we should have a more concrete and of the boundary of the discussions. But here is the social media platform that we have been collaborating with. It's a European-based social media platform. It's Instagram like image sharing platform. So it only has the app and no PC part. And it's established in 2021. So basically, it's the same as in Canada we have this literary book, right? In America we have this like Instagram. So it's similar. European. So basically, you can have many like different photos on your first page and you can click, and then you can read the people's page and to get the idea of this people's history image. And basically, at one point, the platform introduced this AI tool, which is test image tool. So basically, you can see these images produced online. As human beings, we of course know which one is more like AI, right? But essentially, in the data, we can also see that because this tool is a built-in functionality. That's the first and the second. The after produce that, there will be an AI mark over there. So as in the database that we have, not only we see this post is AI generated one, we also have the access to the prompts, how people generate. Okay.
ones that are ones that are not generated through the platform could be generated through other.
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. So firstly, regarding that, so I'm going to argue that regarding the regular photos that we have in our data set, firstly, what we can do is to browse every images to filter out those like look similar to the AI. And then secondly, I don't think that we have to do that because the regular photos is like not marked as AI on the platform, and then people edit photos every time. So it's not only using the AI tool to edit it, right? So they can basically use their iPhone to do the editing and so on. So for the regular one, editing part, we include both like edited regular or the edited with other it's not in-house. So basically, the process is that if you want to
Also, to add a text, if you already have a editing function, why would you use another text images for
yeah. So the general process is like so the regular posting process is like what we did normally. But for the test analyze, but we can always do whatever we want to do on the assignment. So, but currently we have these elements analyze, and for the social network we have this follower, followee relationship. Who followed whom or unfollowed whom, either way. Okay, so and also the information level database, sort of like the click string data, but on the app it's a little bit different because you don't have the click, you have score. So you will have the who stayed at which screen for how long. So something like that. But that data is a little bit messy. I never get into that point because it's not always simultaneously detected, but we can use that part of it. So it's a very simple DID framework. So we have the people who use this AI, who at least the first one AI generated photos. We have people who didn't at all for the whole time period. And this function was introduced in June 2023. And then we have this post 10 weeks and pre 10 weeks. Okay, so it's a typical EID setup. Okay.
Setup is not chronological, staggered. But
it's a stagger. It's a stagger. So AI adopters begin posting AI in a staggered manner. Okay. So it's staggered.
So the treatment time doesn't actually happen at the point, but it's different for
True. So that time point is the platform introduced this function. So when we generate the variable, when we measure the creativity or the novelty, we only look at the Victor images. But it's tricky to choose what baseline is. So I will get into that point. So I think this is very important on the dependent variable part. So what do we mean about the novelty of creativity? I think I need to be very careful on this perspective.
So to what extent, I mean, maybe some powerful data, but to what extent can you actually see creativity and lead in maybe so powerful features? So you have a long experience of observing learning, but yeah, I mean, learning and having a school started, then creativity
Yes, I agree on
or also the fact that most of these I have not very and maybe it's another.
Yes, I totally agree. So first thing that we try to do is to try to extend the length of the analysis. But that part I totally agree tendency is somewhat short. But another thing is if we extend the time period, there are some new policies or new features that we cannot fully guarantee that we are clean away from the AI. And the second part is I think the is somehow quite enough in our setting is if some learnings will take a lot of time, some other learnings may substitute if they interact with each other quite often. Because seeing a lot of time it's possible, still harmful, but they can create some new things. That's what I think. So what we did when it comes to the image analyzing, it's always convert that image into the vector. Okay, so we have searched a lot of tools. I do not know the technical details of all those amazing tools, but I know how it works and what it can do. And there are some limitations that current technology cannot get over with. So for example, this is the most advanced tool regarding the image processing that we can find. So what it does is convert convert this image into the high-dimensional vectors. Okay? And with those vectors, the computer scientist can do the downstream applications like classifications, like to mark the images regarding the like objects. Okay? So the problem is they generate this with the pixel level data. For the image, they are like compromised with the pixels. After they did this, decreasing the dimensions with this 348 dimensional data, we know this dimensional data, this vector is very useful on those perspectives. They can help us to distinguish the styles, like whether the edges of the pictures, the shape of the pictures, the color contrast of the we can also know it is very useful for the content classifications. For example, you can recognize that there are horses in this picture, and they know the parts of the horses. Okay, so with this picture that we know this, so basically it's a combination of the image styles and the objects with the contents there. But the shortcoming is, I think this is a fundamental shortcoming here. I do not know which dimension is what. Okay, they do not have concrete meanings. Okay, so for example, the first dimension, if we are doing the LDA topic modeling, we only know the first topic is 1 watt, right? Second topic is 1 watt. But here, for any like image processing tools that we have, we got the vector. We do not know which is which. Okay, that's the one fundamental. But it's a combination of the content and the style. Yeah.
That problem will be fine. I'm curious, does the retraining model,
Yeah.
is fine-tuning needed to capture your own data set? You're not training your own model from a space model. You're using this pre-trained model.
Yes.
Is this pre-trained model trained on similar images?
I think so. Because this pre-trained model, they also train with the images, right? With the pictures. And they are not trained with the artwork. And we have these images and pictures as well.
Yeah, another approach people can look at is they train your models as short form. That was
I guess you just capture the difference.
Yeah, we are just capturing the images, capturing the noise. And then later, in the mechanism check, I can show you the other thing that we did. I think it's pretty cool that I just capture the content. Okay, but the style part, we cannot capture it precisely. Content part we can do for much bigger thing.
And then another 384 is the default from this model.
This model has different setup. 384 is the matrix. And I tried many models with the transformer. They have this 384. This sounds like a magic number. So as long as you are using transformer, the output somehow is like 3, 4, 7, something. That number is constantly show up. Okay? So when we measure the creation or the normality, it's basically that when we create this fish mark, when we have the normality of one content, we use 1 week equals total number of the content on the platform as the benchmark. So basically we see whether this image is something normal to the whole set of the image, mostly 1 week before this image developed by the platform, not by this because this user is himself. So we actually debated ourselves a little bit on this one. So basically, if I'm more novel to myself, it can be possible that I just changed from being novel to not so novel to this platform. And so, and we choose this kind of scenario because we think it's what the platform wants. The platform wants the images or the pictures that's so different racially. So
that's a very what I think in love. There are two concepts. One is self-knowledge. Self-knowledge you can look at before and after adoption before. Yeah. Supposing that is the
yes, yes.
then what you're capturing is more like contemporaneous, like visualization platform.
Yes.
If you think about it, visualization is different. Like if you do something different from yourself or similar to yourself, which may not be like you don't know about that. Yeah. I think it's probably different.
Yes, yes.
The applications look different.
Yeah, we are trying to like figure out how to present this. Right now, that measurement we also did, but it's just as one robustness check. But when I think more on this, one presentation style is that I have comments, but I don't know how it deals with the mechanism part. Right now, the mechanism part is all about how these people can be so different.
You're not really measuring conditions based on yourself. You say, okay, I'm different. Once we have this image, I become more different from the platform. Conceptually, that would be different.
Yeah, but still, on the social media platform, you are not generating this or seeing pictures by yourself, right? You have a lot of checking, liking, reposting. You are exposed to the whole platform. So it's not about your own self-creativities, or because you are exposed by interacting with all others.
Yes, I think it's harder to link your behavior to what the platform does than link your behavior to what the video.
Yeah.
I
We are also debating on this.
Yeah, that's a great point. Another anchoring point you can think of is the individual creativity versus collective creativity, because there was a paper published last year in Nature on user-generated AI. They increased their individual creativity, but as a whole, they decreased collective creativity.
Yes.
I think you have
Thank you. So basically, right now, our different variable is like this. So the current critical thinking versus the zero regarding its user is the AI on the regular in the code on the code, right? So of quick numbers, so basically here is what we observe. So for the image popularities or the reputation type of metrics, we observe at least in our kind of theory, the AI is catching a lot of responses as the values from the regular one, but it's like as the regular ones, they didn't catch a lot of attention. Okay. Regarding the creativities or the novelty, and here regarding all measurements, the AI is not so novel. Okay? So here is another set of the measurements I didn't put it here. So the reason for that is even though AI looks kind of different from the regular post that we see in the previous examples, but AI they look similar to themselves. And the regular images without using AI, they are so different from each other. So what we observe actually in the first simple comparing the AI images they created, they are just the platforms, the novelty, the memory, we have, they are pretty good. And then, so basically, we are also debating on this. So, the current curriculum thinking versus the AI on the code, right? So, what we observe actually in the first simple comparing the AI images they created, they are just the platforms, the novelty, the memory we have, they are pretty good. And then, so basically, we are also debating on this. So, downstream because AI is they are similar to each other. They have this side.
Which one is higher? The AI higher or the
this is normal. So this is yeah,
so human the regular
yeah, the regular distance is higher. So
不分黄道不seriously, if you try to do a deep fake or actually a lot of images inaccurate where people don't want they don't want verbal humans, they want humans.
True. So for the AI part I could is that people may not like the novelty of the creative there because they just need to see some new things. But
I try to create reality.
Other than the rigor. But glad our research question is on the rigor now.
You said you observed like a decline in creativity over time.
For the AI images, but the reason for that is that AI they are similar to each other. So with the time span, with this platform has more AI images, the benchmark with more AI images, the novelty of the AI of this computer is lower.
Do you see the same trend in the likes and the retweets? Like as time
Yes.
goes out, the likes and the retweets also go down?
Yes. But that part I don't know whether it is related to the novelty or not because with the time span, people get more used to the AI images also tracking.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You see the numbers like the likes and retweets, because the data was collected like 10 weeks between the launch of the tool. So maybe when the tool was first launched, everybody was very excited and trying it out. So I wonder whether there's a time effect.
Yes, you are absolutely right. We also observed that at the first semester, people are very keen to this. But with the time span, people get used to it. So, but with the time within the computer, we have this that you can see AI very close to this. So we did some normal stuff on the AI. Not this is crazy. So first is the propensity score matching. We make sure the control and the treatment they are comparable. And here is the results. The AI results very simple because they are.
Is that what are your thoughts on with
So the matching performance will be different. So I would say with the replacement, basically you can plan the base to control the gap. Like in the summary, and you can use it like multiple times, right?
I'm just curious because typically you are what do not like replacement.
Yeah, so but the results won't change too much. I won't change at all in fact. So and for the DID model, I think we have the beautiful conceptualization about what's the boundary is. How over we can be with all those things. Like it's just takes some time to implement this. So here is our results, the main results is like decreasing. And then so for the robotics kit, like I said, we can just be so creative on the methodology part of the DID. So we can do all those things, like consider all those different loopholes, no problems. We can, at least we have done those, and for new things we can implement that. Okay? But still, DID has its like shortcomings, like this editing part or anything. But I think,
I still want to know how to define when as a system. So when they were created for the system. So like I use this AI prompt to produce this AI image. So that means I'm a system. Performance are
yes.
I conceptually I have no question about is that appropriate or is that
So here is I couldn't understand you. Some people may just try it and quit, right? can restrict, for example. That's not an issue at all. So, so basically, this mechanism part I pass up after the so I want to spend some time on this mechanism part. So I skipped a lot on the end result because we all know what's it. So on the mechanism part, we want to answer this why question. Why is increasing, right? So, and also explaining to those two explanations that I can think about. The first one, social media one. So we think the users they are competing with the AI images, right? So they may somehow strategically change their behaviors, but I don't know why they are increasingly doing. That's what I don't know, but they may have this tendency to think, oh, they face the competing with AI on the others. They start to use that. They grab more reputations from this platform also. They may do not spend more time to be normal as well. That's kind of also be the possibilities. And then we actually try to be like this guy. And then your algorithm, right? Your measurement calculated more similar to this. And then you're using a, that's why I want to separate baseline. You know, it's their human. Yeah, because currently include all of it, right? Yeah. AI and yeah. Yeah. So you are absolutely right. So firstly, yes, you are spoiling all the results all the time. So, but at the same time, so pretty much we found that in some of the AI and indeed people's regulatory started to look similar to the AI. But the reason that we didn't use the regular as a benchmark is even with that, this can still be one of the main mechanisms. Because when the AI starts to look at the, when the regular start to look at AI, even with the regular as a benchmark, we are going to observe the same thing, right? Because at the time T, the regular looks like the AI in the T minus 1. Then on the T plus 1, if you have the T regular as the benchmark, they're going to be similar. Another question, why wouldn't untreated also have the same effect? Because it also observes other people's AI images in their life. So they would be doing that too. Okay, let me discuss all the results. Otherwise, it's like all this results being discussed for him. But you are absolutely right. Let me see how the individual results tell us. Okay? So first thing regarding the social media reputation cameras and motivations, the first thing that we did, I was so confident, and I told the EC, it's definitely because of the reputation. People want to have more likes, more reposts, and if we are having this, then people start to attract more reputation on the regular, and they are going to post more regular with AI post because they are grabbing more attention. And then, firstly, we try to put some simple metrics like the number of the likes for the regular, number of the reposts on the regular, number of the regular posts. They are not significant, they are unchanged. Okay, basically. And then I said, okay, beautiful. Not only about their behaviors, right? How about they seeing the others' behaviors? Okay? Not only their own images, they may capture the attractions. They start to observe the others' image that start to attract the reputations. Not only about the likes, but also the social network information about process. Not only about this time period, but also the previous time period or the future that they may want to re-add all these reputations. But we found lots. So basically, the whole social media part was so consistent mechanics, what do people do regarding their regular post? They didn't do this like because they can get more likes, or they didn't do this because they saw the others getting more likes. Basically, that's our current planning. We can do all these things, and we can extract the subsamples of users who care about the repeating so much, and they didn't exhibit the more profound effect. So we have tried all this. Then at the very beginning, we also did this. Okay, that's why this finding triggered us to look at the AI usage type of thing, raw. So for the AI usage, what we did is to look at the number of the AI code, or the ratio. That the ratio means the AI images versus people. So we find that more the people use more of this AI, this impact is big. Okay? And then we say, oh, it's totally different. Like answering Kevin's question, I use AI is one thing. I'm exposed to AI is another. I start to seeing this AI. It's something that I see, right, from the AI style. I think it's also going to be impactful if we do not use it and we just see it.
Very interesting. Do you think this is the like that after they use AI a lot, they start to feel I don't need to make the effort to vector photo never to explore more refined high performance.
I think it can be possible. So I'm going to introduce more results on this route so we can discuss more on that. So if it reflects in that way, I think that the amount of saturation of this, so that it knows to become the non-AI. What's the question? I can.
Our platform has more images than AI, and it's downloading AI.
Depends on the content.
Yes, maybe can research.
Going to find people exposure, that would be more causal. People usage, that's also more causal.
Yes, I totally agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So there are something that we haven't done, but we plan to do.
Yeah, we have a lot of
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, so basically right now we have this framework. We are trying to nail down some capabilities, okay, to prepare for the reviews and
The problem of like this control, I think we need to support this is something that's going on.
Yeah.
I'm like that's great. And then that's the same with your one and one. So you have the prompts that you can use.
Yeah. Yes, we have.
Can you look at their like behavior like when you or
Yeah, we have later.
So,
So basically we have this. We also subsample the users. We found that the users have to use many, then they get their benefits. Then we say, okay, how people is using AI, right? So that's one of the questions. So if it's one of people's use on the AI, then how they are using is okay. Okay, so we get into the prompts, the images that they have, and then here is some examples. When people start to increase the prompts, okay, and then create the AI images. Okay. From observing those prompts, at least from my perspective, I can categorize all those words. The first one about the styles, like walking and what type of the art, like oil painting, right? This kind of works, or start to think. Okay? So if this is the case, then probably the regular start to have AI one point in terms of content styles. Okay? So then the best thing that we can do theoretically if we have the power is to look at the regular images content. Match the AI's content. We track the styles of the recurrence, match this AI, see whether they have this like alignment or not. But we cannot for two reasons. The first one is about this emissions shortcoming, right? We don't know which one is content, which one is style. That's the first thing. And the second thing, I really do not know how to quantify this descriptive styles. Like the cybertruck firm statement about the scenario or content, like yes, we can do the content. Or yes, for the content we can do, but style-wise we cannot. Okay, and then we start to have this idea, and the first steps that we did is to quantify the similarities between the AI and the regular for the control and the treatment. So the current one that we have done is to just connect without any time, right? We just have this post-enable data for the control for each regular one. We compare it with the AI system, and for the treatment, we compare it with the AI system. We see which one is more similar, and we indeed find that the treatment looks the users regular, they are more similar to the AI. Okay? So, but we have so many things to do. So I listed that to do. So basically, that's things for you in the next 2 weeks. So firstly, it's about the user's own AI, right? So and then for their like self like recent images also. And another thing is about the instrument level or that self-selection issues that we discussed. Even though we observe that exposed to AI doesn't like properly, when users start to see others' prompts or the prompt examples put in by the platform, they may like into this type of style more and then affect their rate. That's our current thought. That can animate the image to make it better. So that's what we are going to do. And regarding that content thing, what we can do is to use another model to design the picture, the images, to have the content to be extracted. Okay? For those images, for those AI images, we can do the same thing for the regular one as well. Okay? After that, we will say, okay, this image will have who is doing what and where. This type of content. And basically, we can have a bunch of words with nouns and verbs. Okay? Those are basically the content of the pictures. And we found the content themselves doesn't change so significantly. So basically, if we have something, picture that should find out that you are not the object, then the question is how the styles being affected. Okay, so that part we still need to do more work on classifying the styles data since we have the prompts data, right? But before that, we also did some experiment regarding how people using the prompts. So for every prompt with text, this is how people use the AI, right? So this is from people. So we think that's like a more fundamental sense than analyzing the AI image. So we focus a little bit more on this. What we did or her like overall style, and then we calculate the difference across each prompt. And we found that for those two variabilities, like the information stew, the first one, we can calculate the entropy across different factors in the vector. Always, it's like the people who like can just use certain words of the prompt in the prompt, they are like subject to the type form. And also across this prompt style, across different prompts, people can change the wordings and things more. They are less subject to the impact. Okay, so so our current, so this is all the results that I have. So right now we are stopping here at the moment that we somehow pretty confident is about the use of the data. Like the prompts that the user matters. But still, we have more work to do regarding how the styles in the prompts operate with the users, and also it's highly important, including your groups. So it can be two possibilities. Like one, people start to be less creative or less novel, and then it changes how they input the prompts, and then how they input. Or the people who show this type of patterns in the prompts, they are less novel by nature. So that's why we still have some more work to do on this, but I'm pretty confident that we should be able to see some interesting variables. But I still not say this that we may be able to try. But if you have any other ideas, I think that would be really helpful. But here, this is our yeah. So the second one will be really short because that's the result. But do you have any questions on this?
Well, really great questions from the inside out, from an AI, from a tech guy looking out from the database out. Because you're training the database itself with prompts, but you're actually changing the actual data set that you're actually using to prompt the next prompt. So it's evolving, and again, is it evolving to the mini? There's lots of this really very, very interesting. Thank you. Because especially when you're trying to the vector representation, and that's just prompt on the other side is how is the database trained, so how is the vector actually mapped on, and then how does it manipulate the transform inside? And that depends on the data set that it's trained on, which is also being affected by the prompts that you're actually giving it. So it's actually not static object. Right?
Yeah. So regarding that, I think the first question we asked, we asked the platforms regarding that, how so they use the service from the third party. So that model is not trained by this platform themselves. So then there we asked how this service is updating the arguments. We didn't get the final answer. I thought no answer. But the good thing is that it's a secret data set. So that model, I think the article that is research because the sense library is going to use the same Yeti library, and they have to use the Yeti library, it's a static data set. Yeah, you can modify that based on your outcome. The classic one is the Yeti library. And have a negative outcome for its value, right? Yeah, and that's so it's fantastic. It has lots of stuff. Sorry. Yeah, sure. What do you have to
Question from Miami Beach.
From the Miami Beach. Fantastic.
Well, we're locked out here due to our bar. puzzle, so forgive me for not being present. Just to follow up on the last point, I had a question way back when you were talking about how you focus on rewards and basically through reputation. On the last point about actual performance metrics, have you looked at actual applications that are being used? And one example I can think of is children's media, where the creative content encompasses several areas in the development stages of the children. And there are companies out there that are actually quantifying a return on investment. So I'm not sure if you've looked at them, but for example, there's one here in Miami that's very well known nationally called Very Big Things. There are a lot of startups that work with them, and they did a really cool study with the media, with a child development company, and they look at content for cognitive development. I'm reading off their website, moral reasoning, connection with nature, and they do animation. So also physical development, and it's quite creative, but at the same time, there's a business application and a purpose for doing this, and that's to develop the children in a safe environment, but also do things that they would not normally have normal access to, let's say, without having this Gen I creative content being built, let's say. So I'm just wondering if you could maybe consider adding a metric such as return on investment, meaning these firms that are engaging these creative agencies in order to actually get more traction. So it's not about the old eyeballs and clicks, but actually getting a return on their actual investment. That's my question.
Yes, thank you so much. So I really agree with you. There are many different metrics. Right now, we only look at the social media type of the metrics because that's the what the user care about. That's the first thing because the user change their creativities. But I totally agree with you that many different accounts, many different users, like the organizations, they have different measurements of the metrics of the operations or the downstream impact that they care so much about. That part we didn't look at, but we really should have. Especially we have this social network data, like which whose attraction is attracted and with what content. And for this platform, when we discuss with them, listen to curious about what users think about. They just want to see whether the users stay on the platform. So that's another metric that we want to look at as well. Yes.
Yeah, but going back to my point, that's like circa 1990s with Mary Meeker, clicks and eyeballs, but you don't really know what actually you're generating there. Whereas a more quantifiable business metric would actually get you to, okay, this is a sustainable model that people will look to invest because they see a return and they see a potential exit if it's a startup, let's say. Whereas eyeballs and clicks, only got you so far in the growth stage, but then, we know what happened afterwards, right? With the internet crash.
Yes. So I agree. So right now, with talking with the platforms, the main impression that we have is that they care about the number of users and whether this to create the platform. That's their thing a lot. So they want to see whether this new companies of the AI can do that much better. Yeah, we are definitely going to check more on that as well. And also, we still have about 10 minutes. I think I want to quickly introduce the second one, so to see your ideas or reactions on that, because the second one is very simple. Well, that's it. We can discuss that. Okay. So the second one just need 5 minutes to introduce it. We look at the kind of the AI summary this is idea. So previously they have like thousands of the reviews for one product, and then now you come up with and say, oh, how about this AI summarize the offer? And I show you this summarize. Okay? I show you this summarize about what people talk about and what's in like, what they do not like. Okay? So they are everywhere. So here is what I found out that is quite interesting because a couple of months ago we have a current incidents, right? We experienced the same season. And then I started to look at this power bank and prepare for the outrage, right? And then I searched into this, and then I found this. It says consumers like what, and then consumers do not like what. So basically, however, that's dividing part of what people like and what people do not like. And then they just want to categorize the information on the wall. So they just list up the attributes of the product. And then you say, oh, if people like this thing, if people do not like, they didn't do anything. So when I look at it, wow, it's so clear that I do not have to create all those thousand screens, right? All those reviews. So I can see it from here. So I personally feel that it's a very informative one. It's a well categorized, and it's a critical information, right? It's from the experience reviews. Okay, but I didn't see too much of this until we start to share the ideas and discuss with the undergraduate students. Yanqing started to think more on this, and then the first reaction is that we think this is a good thing because it decreases people's uncertainty. It's one good information summary there, right? So there are many work done by Kevin on this aspect. Okay, so you can think it as multiple dimensional rating system, right? So basically, but instead of the rating system, they actually have the aspects of the product for every product, and then they have the okay. This is a good thing, okay? But still, there are some less good things going on out there. When I read all those, at least I think the advantages or the good things of that product will be those mentioned by the various customers already. So there is no anchoring intent there in my mind. Okay, so there are possibly some things going on in my brain proposing here as well. Okay, so without this, I'm really more free to express my own opinion. But with that, I don't want people to like what people do not like. And there is thousands of reviews. Do you think that I'm going to write the reviews based on my career? I have a way to write it. Yeah, but there is a selection going on, right? For the people who want to write it, they are more confident.
So it's usually important for products that have temporal like or life cycle and because later on people don't like anyone AI and yeah, it'll be something.
Yeah, so here is our finding. So we actually did we answered this question because the regional ranges matters, right? So again, as the same argument. But when it comes to the rating generations, when we do the current generations, the programming part is very important. The selection process through which product will have sales at the AI review is quite tricky. Then we found this website, Munich, so you can find website. Okay. So basically people purchase the electronics and everything. And then they also introduced this AI review summary. It has However, okay, it's how AI works, right? It has a framework and it will generate the sense document. Okay, this is one case study. They have this nice cutout, 10 reviews, where it's the AI in the software. Okay? So with this cutout, my argument is with the product with the 9 reviews and the products with the 11 reviews, they are same. Okay, they are similar on many metrics. Okay. So what we did, so it's a typical regression is continuity. And we can do the smooth check on what everything that we can observe, right? So the p-value for the products with the 9 reviews or the products with a higher number of reviews, we can do this balance check. Yeah, so here is the result. This is all the results, okay? Number of the review from this ratio 10, 9, 8, 6, 7, 11, 12. I can see those button jump, right? So no matter it's a linear, linear, or quadratic, linear, yeah, it's 0.55. It's huge. There is a sudden jump over here going up. Okay, so and then after this, we do more analyze these predictions, the uncertainty, and the anchoring part. And then the funny thing is, we found this case function analysis, we found that people review become more and more similar to the AI review summary, particularly with the positive side. That makes sense because in an AI summary, people talk about the positive side more, and they are at the top. For that one, they have the incentive to put the counts at the bottom. But even without that incentive, nowadays the ranking implementation, every restaurant is 4 plus rating. So every product will have more positive. Yes. Yeah. I also think when I talk with the classes, it's also think that people tend to talk about nice things. So they will have this psychological burden when we talk about the positive things. But negative things are what we have. Yes. Yes. Right. Yes. Yes. Probably we can do more of the way try to distinguish this schematic we in people reviews are more similar. Yeah. Apparently on the positive side. Thank you so much for coming. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we can discuss